Hello everyone. So in this session we are going to talk about the reproduction in flowering plants. In the last session itself I told you it has been completed, but today I am going to explain you the important structures of this plant. Very important 5-mark questions I am going to describe you once again, so that you can carefully mark label the diagrams, or everything you can observe one more time. So with that we will study with the LS of flower. As you know, it's a simple thing, it's very simple. LS of flower, where it contains a receptacle. So this is the thalamus or receptacle. On the receptacle I have drawn the accessory whorls and essential whorls. So the very first accessory whorl is here, I have drawn here. So this is the calyx. The next accessory whorl is corolla. A complete whorl of petals and a complete whorl of sepals are known as calyx and corolla respectively. And innermost two whorls are there, those are the androecium and gynoecium. So in the androecium there are two parts are there, one is anther and one more is filament. They both together known as stamen or gynoecium. And here the innermost whorl of the LS flower is pistil. So in this pistil we have three parts. The one is stigma, style, from here to here the style will be there, and the basal part, it's little bit swollen in position. So that swollen basal part is considered as the ovary. Inside the ovary one or many ovules are present. Depending on the species, the ovules vary. One ovule will be there, two ovules or more ovules will be there. So only one time they have asked in the examination for 5 marks to describe the LS of flower with neat label diagram. Okay, so that's all about the LS of flower. We'll come to this diagram. I have drawn only this much. You asked me whether to write the tissues and all inside the diagram. No need to write the tissues and all. If you write this much, more than enough. Label this. Okay. First you mention this diagram. This is the TS of young anther. Young anther showing 4, what is this? Microsporangium. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 microsporangiums are there, and this is the TS of young anther. Why it is known as TS of young anther? Because these edges are closed, sealed. It is not open. And coming to the labeling of or parts of this TS of young anther, so the outermost layer or the outermost part is known as epidermis. The cells of the epidermis is flat and they are compactly arranged. There is no gap between one cell and one more cell. Next to the epidermis, radially arranged. I am telling you, radially arranged. These are not radial cells, radially arranged cells. The second layer is known as endothecium. And so that is the second layer. Next to the endothecium, middle layer is present. The middle layer is little bit loosely arranged, made of parenchyma cells. Middle layer. Okay, this is the third layer. Now coming to the fourth layer, so this is the fourth layer. It is known as tapetum. Okay. In the 4 microsporangium, tapetum is covered. The tapetum gives nourishment to the sporogenous tissue present inside the tapetum, and the tapetum cells are compactly packed, and each cell of the tapetum is having many nucleus, 2 or more nucleus. Okay. So why it become more nucleus, why in the tapetal layer, why one cell having more nucleus? Because the karyokinesis occurs but cytokinesis do not occur. That's why the tapetal cells having more nucleus. Now in between this, I forgot to consider this lobes. So this is one lobe and one more lobe. Okay, having 2 lobes in anther, that type of anther is known as bilobed or dithecous anther. So these 2 lobes get connected with one connective tissue or connective. So that's all about the structure of TS of young anther, transverse section of young anther. How do you mention the transfer? How you have to consider the transverse section of anther? So this is if you consider or if you see that this diagram, look at this diagram now. I am drawing a stamen here having 2 lobed anther and a filament. If we take the section of the anther like this, okay, LS means longitudinal section, TS means transverse section. So if we take the transverse section of this anther, the structure it looks like this, the internal structure will look like this, and consider and remember this is the young anther. Now here one diagram I have drawn here, so showing the pollen grains. These pollen grains are coming out from the anther. It means this is the mature anther. TS of mature anther, where the line of dehiscence it get open so that the pollen grains, all the pollen grains has come out from the anther. Why it will come out from the anther? Only to pollinate, only to sit on the stigma of the flower of the same species, of the same flower or different plant of the same species. So if we mention or if we label the parts of this anther, the same thing it will be the outermost epidermis. These are the pollen grains, and so one sac is there. No, I told you this is the tapetal layer and this is the microsporangium. I told you in the structure, but here you have to mention this as this layer as pollen sac. Why it become pollen sac? Because it is having pollen grains, and in the center, in the middle portion, connective is present and number of pollen grains. One of you or two of you asked me where the line of dehiscence will be. So only at one point the pollen grains will dehisce, or both the centers will dehisce? No. So the answer is, look at this diagram. So this is compactly, this is the sealed, unopened anther, you can call it as. It is a young anther. There is no dehiscence at all. Why? Because the tissues are under construction or under they are getting mature. Okay. So when they get mature, the pollen grains, when they get mature, the sporangium, microsporangiums are there. No, they'll become like this, and the cells which is present inside the microsporangium, they get mature and become pollen grains. Those pollen grains, when they mature, this is the line of dehiscence, the point of dehiscence, this area or this region. Why it become line of descent? Because here the tissues will be soft. Why not from this region? When the anther get mature, these tissues, whatever is there in the epidermis and endothelium, they become fibrous tissue. They will become little bit rigid, but not these points. These points, they will be softer, so that it will become easier to anther to open from that point, so that the pollen grains all will come out from that region. Now coming to the study of the description of the pollen grain. So I have written like this. No need of thinking on that day one diagram I wrote in today also. Today I have written like this. No need of worrying. You can write like that, like this also. In this diagram, what you have to mention, what you have to label. So outermost exine, and then next to the exine, intine is present. Exine is made of sporopollenin. So in the outermost layer, there are some pores, some holes, where why it become hole? Why we are going to call that as pore? Because as I told you, in the exine region, the sporopollenin or the organic substance is get deposited. So that organic substance, the sporopollenin, it is rigid in nature. It protects the pollen grain. In some regions, in some points, it failed to deposit. That regions are known as, that small areas are known as germ pores. Through the germ pores, think this is the germ pore, Germ, germ pore, the pollen tube germinates. Like this, the pollen tube germinate. Why the necessary? What is the function of pollen tube? Why it should get germinate? Because the pollen tube carries the generative cell. Meantime, this one generative cell, it gets split. It gets divided into two. So this generative cell is considered as when it become two, or it forms two male gamete. Those two male gamete carried by pollen tube, and it reaches to the ovary of the flower. Okay, why? What is the necessary to reach there? Only for the pollination, only for the fertilization, it has to reach there. So coming to our structure, I'll erase this pollen tube now. Okay, outermost is exine, inner next to the exine is intine. Somewhere here I'll show you the germ pore. And now there is a cell. So this cell is known as nucleus, and this is the here I'll mention vegetative cell or tube cell. The function of vegetative cell is it helps in the germination of pollen tube when the pollen grain sits on the stigma, and this is the generative cell. By the time the pollen tube grows, the generative cell, it divides into two. That two generative cells are known as male gametes. The vegetative cell do not involve in the reproduction, do not involve in the fusion. Okay, so that's all about the pollen grains and tears of mature anther and tears of young anther and LS of female flower. Okay, look at this diagram. I made some corrections here. Please don't do this. When you are writing the tears of young anther, your diagram should be like this. Connective, okay, epidermis, endothelium, middle layer, tapetum, connective tissue, microsporangia, sporogenous tissue. Here I'll mention sporogenous genus, tissue. Okay, so that's all about these 4 diagrams. So we have one more diagram here, that is VS of Anatropous ovule. The VS of Anatropous ovule showing number of parts, we'll see. So look at this diagram, the embryo sac also I have drawn here itself. We will mention the labels, parts. The first one is funicle. The funicle is the stalk of the ovule. Alright, and so the point where the funicle and body of the ovule it get attached, that point is known as hilum, and the body consists of outer and inner integuments. Inner it is, and this is the outer integuments, and this is the mass of cells. Earlier how it will be? Only cells will be present when it get mature, when it forms, when it synthesizes, only these cells will be present. It won't be having the embryo sac. Later on the embryo sac matures. So only one cell which is present at the micropylar region. So this is the micropyle, a cell which is present near the micropyle, that cell it get or it forms into megaspore mother cell. That megaspore mother cell it undergoes meiotic division, and the resultant product will be megaspore tetrad. The megaspore tetrads will be linear in position. The 4 megaspore tetrads, out of 4 megaspore tetrads, only one remain functional, the other 3 disintegrate. That functional unit, that functional megaspore, it divides or it takes 3 mitotic divisions. That 3 mitotic divisions, the resultant product of 3 mitotic division forming 8 nucleus or 8 nuclei. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 nuclei. 3 nuclei, it travels or it moves to the chalazal end. So this is the chalaza, and 3 nuclei will move towards the micropylar end, and 2 remain in the central cell, or it remain in the central position. So these 2 cells, one more thing to tell. Before going to mention the parts of these, let me tell you the what is this? Cytokinesis. After the formation of nuclei, after the moving of nuclei, the cytokinesis occurs. The cytokinesis only to these cells, the cell wall forms to these nucleus. Here also cytokinesis forms, and we have 3 cells here near to the chalazal end. That 3 cells are known as antipodal cells, and in between the cell, the central cell is known as the cell which is present at the middle region or at the central region. It is itself known as central cell. The nuclei which is present in the central cell is known as polar nuclei. Okay, and 3 more cells are there, we have to mention that. So these, out of these 3, these 2 cells are considered as synergids. Synergids, and 1 cell is there. This cell is known as X cell. The synergids and X cell are known as egg apparatus. This egg apparatus, it is present towards the micropylar region. When the male gamete, when the pollen tube reaches or when it enter from the micropylar region, it entered through the synergids. The synergids having finger-like projections. That finger-like projections help in the guiding the pollen tube to enter inside the sac. Think this is the synergid, two synergid having finger-like projection known as filiform apparatus. It guides the pollen tube to enter inside the synergid. And then in this, so this is the egg cell and synergid. Here also one synergid, filiform apparatus. That elongated portion I have drawn, this elongated portion I have drawn here. And one more thing to tell. So this embryo sac are mature if they ask you to write about the Anatropous foveal, VS of Anatropous foveal, this diagram is must. If they ask separately to draw the diagram of mature embryo sac, only this diagram you have to draw. Only this diagram showing the antipodal cells, the polar nuclei, the synergids and egg cell, and don't forget to mention the ends of the embryo sac. This is the antipodal cells. Near to the antipodal cell you have to mention chalaza. Near to the egg apparatus you have to mention the micropyle end. And one few more labelings are there in the Anatropous foveal. So this is the nucellus, right? Okay, so that's all about the VS of Anatropous foveal, showing number of labelings or parts. One more time I'll tell here because it is a 5-mark question. Don't leave the question, it is very much easy. If you draw 7 to 8 labelings, you will get full marks. Don't leave this. So it's very easy concept. A stalk is there, no? One funicle. Body is having few parts are there. Let me mention that the innermost part, so this part is known as nucellus. The nucellus is covered by two layers, two integuments, that is inner integument, outer integument. After fertilization, these integuments converts or develops into seed coat. The outer integument, outer layer is known as testa and inner layer is known as tegmen, and those tegmen and testa protects the seed or embryo when it is in a seed condition. And what we left, so this is the chalazal end. Why we are going to call this as chalazal end? Because from this region integuments develops, and in the Anatropous foveal it has a small pore, that an opening, that opening is known as micropyle opening. Towards the micropyle opening, one of the nucellus cell it undergoes meiotic division. When it attains or when it forms or when it undergoes meiotic division, the number of chromosome reduces, diploid to haploid condition it will. So that's all about the VS of Anatropous foveal. And embryo sac, while writing the structure of embryo sac, let me write that also. So think this is the embryo sac, antipodal cells, chalaza and micropylar end, synergids, egg cell, nuclei, polar nuclei. So this you have to draw when they ask you to write the mature embryo sac. 8 nucleated, 7 celled. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 nucleate 7 cell. 7 cells, 1 cell, 2, 3, 4. So this is the fourth one, 5, 6, 7. So this is not the cell, it is just a nucleus. Okay, so that's all about the embryo sac of mature embryo sac of ovule or flower. So with this, after this we studied about the pollination. So in the pollination there are 3 types: autogamy, deuterogamy, and then xenogamy. These 3 are also important. After that, in these pollination, they won't ask you to write about the structure. They only ask you to describe the Vallisneria or seagrass plants, how it adopt the how it uses the water for adaptation, for pollination, like that they'll ask. After that, few more structures are there, few more structure I draw in while doing the class, that is development of endosperm. In the development of endosperm there are 3 types. One is nuclear endospermic development, and then cellular, and then the last one is halobial. So that also they won't ask you, but don't leave any concept, just learn everything so that it will become easier while writing in the examination. And day before yesterday we did about the seed and then fruit. I told you to label the apple fruit, right? Not apple fruit, it is a mango fruit. So a few of you didn't label the mango fruit. So label it and show me. Let me check how many of you remember the parts of the mango, how the epicarp, and then where will be the epicarp, where will be the mesocarp, and then seed will be present inside the mango. Okay. So after this, after all these things, so this is all about the reproduction in flowering plants. So we'll see, we are in reproduction unit, right? So first chapter we have done. In the first chapter we talked about the asexual type of reproduction, how the organisms reproduce by means of asexual, and after that we studied in the flowering plants how the reproduction takes place, not about the asexual reproduction but about the sexual reproduction. We studied everything, we have completed. But in the third chapter we are going to study about the human beings, the human reproduction. That is the third chapter. The name of the chapter, it is it itself saying how the reproduction takes place in human beings. So let me tell you few concepts, few points or few phases of human reproduction, so that you will learn that concept. In the next session I will complete it. I'll start with the human reproduction. So the humans, as you know, they are unisexual and unisexual. Males are male and female are different. Structure is different, and then sexual dimorphism is different. You can identify who is male and who is female because the features and everything will differ in appearance. Okay, so unisexuality or sexual dimorphism, not only by seeing, not only in appearance but also internally, that too in the reproductive system, they both have, male and female have different organs. So we studied in the class 11, we studied about the digestive system, breathing, and then endocrine system, hormones, everything we studied. I leave the hormones because hormones quite differ in male and female, and then excretion, everything we studied. Do we differ any, do we saw any difference in male and female? No, nothing. Only the difference is only in the sexual reproduction they differ, and appearance also they differ. Except these, everything is quite common, and few exceptions are there. I don't want to mention all those exceptions. We'll see in the chapter number 9 and 10, sorry, not 9 and 10, 7 and 8. The exceptions will be seen, the what is the criteria if they got muted, what will happen to the all those things. So we'll see one by one. So first we'll see, or first we'll study about the sexual reproduction. First we'll see the phases of it. Okay, thank you.